Today, we're doing some planet tank maintenance because it's looking pretty rough in here. As you can see, I've got algae growing on the leaves, algae growing on the decor, on the substrate, and on the glass, of course. Mind you, I purposely haven't touched this tank for about a month just to see how bad it would get with my current lighting, feeding, and water change schedules. From far, it looks fine. Up close, not so much. My regular maintenance here consists of a weekly water top off, not a water change, big difference. I'm only topping off weekly. And then I do a monthly water change of about 20%-ish. I also go in manually 1 to 2 times a week to remove as much algae from the leaves as possible. Now, while it's obvious that my nutrient levels are still too high in this tank, hence all the algae growth, this also shows why water changes are important even in a heavily planted tank that also contains fish. These fish need to eat, which means more nutrients. These fish need to poop, which means more nutrients. These fish are growing, which means more mass, which means more nutrients. Ammonia, nitrite, nitrate. Even in a heavily planted tank, the plants can only consume so much, so the excess nutrients becomes algae growth. This is that delicate balancing dance that we all have to do as planet tank keepers. Well, those of us that want crystal clear water, clean glass and plants, a beautiful scape to actually be able to see. Some guys don't mind an algae-ridden tank, and to each their own. All right, let's get this baby cleaned up. First step is manual algae removal. I gently rub on the leaves, being careful not to tear or rip them, even though sometimes it does happen. I know that I won't be able to get all of the algae off every leaf, but some is better than none. I'll start with the Java fern, as this is the one that's probably got the most algae on it, as well as some melted leaves in there. I'll work my way to the tall leaves in the back of the tank and then work my way down the tank. During this process, I'm also looking for any melted or dead leaves and getting them up and into the water column for later removal. Not only that, but I'm trying to get as much trapped debris free from its spot and up into the water column too. Some of this algae looks like blackbeard algae, and if you know, it's very, very sticky and hard to get off. So if I go too aggressive, it may damage the leaves themselves. I'm taking my time, I'm being gentle, and I'm making sure that I'm not hurting any of my little planties. An additional benefit to manually going in like this is that I get to feel the leaves too. I can tell if they feel brittle or thin, weak, and ready to tear off. These are great signs that your plants are missing or lacking in a specific nutrient or another. Besides feel though, you can also see signs as well. Plants can speak to you if you know what you're looking for. Here are some more great signs while I continue to work. And you'll notice that this hands-off month has caused a lot of these symptoms in my tank. Let's start with nitrogen. If your older leaves are turning pale, yellow, or even transparent while new growth stays green, that's a classic sign of nitrogen deficiency. Nitrogen is mobile, so the plant pulls it from old leaves to feed the new ones. If you ignore it long enough, you'll see plants basically cannibalizing themselves. Next up is potassium. This one's sneaky. You'll notice tiny pinholes in the leaves, especially in older growth. Over time, those holes get bigger and the leaf tissue around them starts breaking down, almost like the leaf is melting away from the inside out. If you see that, your tank is probably low on potassium. Now let's talk iron. If your new leaves come in yellow, pale, or white while the older leaves stay green, that's usually an iron deficiency. Iron is immobile, so the plant can't move it from the old leaves to the new ones. That's why the new growth looks sick first. If your plant leaves are curling, twisting, or coming in all funky shaped, check your calcium levels. This mostly affects new growth, and sometimes you also see tips of the plant turning white or stunted. I've got a couple of weirdly shaped curling leaves myself, so I know there's a calcium problem in the tank. Now, magnesium is another one. Older leaves will get pale between the veins. Sometimes they even become transparent while the veins stay green. That's called interveinal chlorosis, and it usually means low magnesium. And finally, if your plants just stop growing altogether or the leaves get small and dark, you might be missing phosphates. In extreme cases, leaves might fall off completely from the bottom up. In my case, with all this algae, I don't think I'm lacking any phosphates though. Now this whole time my filter is still running, and the goal is to get this free floating algae into the filter where it will meet my UV bulb and get zapped. Remember, UV can only kill algae that's free floating and goes through the casing. A UV cannot kill algae attached to surface area, including your plant leaves. Without a UV, all this algae can go through your filter, come out the other end, and just reattach itself somewhere. If the nutrient levels in the tank, just keep feeding it. Check out this video in the top right corner about UV sterilizers if you want more info. What you really need to make sure of when you're looking through your net is to make sure you didn't accidentally scoop up any fish. I say this because I've done it. I found a fish in my trash can. Next, I'm going in with my scraper and clean all the glass, especially down at the bottom where you can see there's a lot of buildup. I've got two that I use because the Aquarium scraper does a better job on the overall glass, but the flipper scraper's blade side does better at the bottom, hard to reach spots by the substrate. Once the glass is free and clear of algae, I'll finally pull out my Python and get to vacuuming. In case you guys don't already know, put your tube into the tank, let it fill up, take the tube out of the tank, watch the water start to come down the tube, and before it reaches the end of the tube, put the tube right back into the tank, let it fill up again. Now you got your siphon going. There is plenty of algae chilling on the substrate, and the only stuff I can get to is what I can see and reach. I don't want to move plants around and uproot them, so I'm just lightly passing through them and as close to the substrate as possible. I also want to stir up as much as possible and get all that muck and detritus up into the water column so that either the Python can vacuum it out of the tank completely or it can find the filter intake and go through the filter. Let's talk about filter cleaning now. You see this flow coming out of my FX2 output? That's the same rate of flow I always get, meaning my filter is not clogged. My turnover rate is the same. And once I see this, I leave my filter alone. A dirty filter is full of life and beneficial bacteria. These canisters can go months without needing a full cleaning, and too many of us overclean our filtration systems to our own detriment. If you don't have any reduction in your flow rate, leave that filter alone. Now, I know what some of you guys are gonna say in the comment section. Bruh, that's why you got so much algae in your tank, because you don't clean your filters. This clown doesn't know what he's talking about. I never water change my planet tank, and it looks so much better than his. To which I'll respond, bite me. No, I'm just kidding. What I'll actually say is, the water in your canister or any filtration type has the exact same parameters as the water in your tank. It's all one enclosed volume of water. 40 parts per million of nitrate in your tank water, you'll have 40 parts per million of nitrate in your filter water as well, which means the dirtiness level of your filter is irrelevant unless it causes a reduction in flow rate. If you still think I'm wrong, book a one-on-one session and explain it to me. I'll listen. It'll only cost you 200 bucks. It's refill time, and as usual, I'm dosing Chem Prime directly into the tank just before filling it up with regular old tap water. The Chem Prime is going to remove chlorine and chloramines as well as other heavy metals from your tap water, making the water clean and safe for your fish and your plants. Yes, it's safe to dose it directly in the tank. This is how I refill all of my tanks in the fish cave. Never had a problem and never will. Knock on wood. Once the tank is full, now is when I'll start dosing my weekly plant supplements. I use Chem's Flourish line to supplement this tank, and in my case, I've dialed in that I need potassium, iron, and Flourish on a weekly basis, as well as a daily dose of Chem XL. Observing your tank on a regular basis is very important. What this month of being hands-off on this tank showed me was that algae growth was actually increasing. The fish are doing well, eating, getting plump, nice and healthy. And the plants themselves, while some are nice and green and healthy, others are frail and weak, and some even died off. I still got plant die-off. That tells me that while I'm high in some nutrients, I've got to be low in others. And without doing an ICP test to narrow down exactly what it is, this is the dial-in process. So what I'm going to do is up my plant supplements a little bit more to make sure that they are getting all the nutrients that they need, but I'm going to reduce a little bit of light and a little bit of feeding to slow down that algae growth. Is this going to work? I don't know yet. It's just one of the many things that I could try, but this is all part of the process. Observation, adjustment, little by little. How am I going to remember all the things that I dialed in, the stuff I'm adding to the tank, the stuff I'm pulling back on a little bit? I keep track of everything in my Aqua Builder app. And if you've never heard of that app before, check that video out right there. It's going to give you all the information, as well as all the new features that we're adding on a regular basis, And if you wanted to see the birth of this planet tank, check that video out right there. But before you go, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you on the other side. Peace.